lot of Africans, men and women, are dating outside of their race because they believe we live in a post-racial society. Understand the 4 stages of white supremacy. First, white supremacy establishes itself. White supremacy then maintains itself. White supremacy then expands itself. And then white supremacy refines itself. We are in the stage of refinement. Refinement means that white supremacy has perfected the art of not looking like white supremacy. For example, you see a lot of African men marrying outside of their race all across the world, but they fail to recognize that the woman they're marrying, who's normally a white woman, belongs to the global white supremacist order. So although he's the husband and she's the wife, she still has the power. At any point in that relationship, she could pick up a telephone, accuse him of a particular crime, and regardless of whether he committed or not, his whole life would be changed. Furthermore, we have to recognize that women live longer than men. So if I, as an African man, marry a European woman or a Chinese woman or an East Indian woman or an Arab woman, whatever wealth I accumulated in my life, when I die, my wealth goes over to the woman of that race. We need that money to build the institutions and industries. So how does a black man with full consciousness who claims to be loyal to his mother and loyal to his people marry a woman who is not in the image of his mother, whom he knows after he dies is going to take his resources and give them to her race, not his? Marrying outside of your race for an African man anywhere on earth is one of the greatest acts of racial betrayal, treason, and treachery. It is absolutely, absolutely intolerable and disrespectful to black women. With so few black women finding husbands, how do you find it within your soul to marry somebody else's daughter who you know is only eloping with you because you have education, income, economics, privilege, position, or property?
Now, this is a 2-part video. Now, that was a very powerful statement that you made, Omar. That you said that any black man that does this traitor act of being with a white woman is a traitor. Now, how are you going to put 2 different men, Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey? Now, in the statement in the video, Frederick Douglass did not want blacks to go nowhere near Africa. He believed that a black American's homeland was America. Now, you have 2 different men. Marcus Garvey believed that black people should go back to Africa. Now, you have 2 different men with 2 different beliefs. Now, you're contradicting yourself with your own 2 people. You have one supposed to be your relative that you said out of your own mouth that is a traitor. He is a traitor, you said, to the black people themselves. And not only was he married a white woman, he helped develop the white feminist movement. He was the first black man to stand up with white feminists. Ain't that something? Now, let's go into this short program in which you're talking about you're going to name this school, this fake school that you say you're building, the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey School of Black Learning, or wherever how you want to put it. Now, I got some questions to ask for you. Now, to do this school, you're going to literally have to overturn Roe v. Wade. You're going to have to actually overturn segregation itself. You're going to have to go to the Supreme Court and overturn segregation. And then on this whole point, how are you going to fund this school to reach every black in America. How big is this school going to be? How is every black American child is going to take a part of this school system of yours? Where are you going to get the funding to build this school? Where is the blueprint? Where is the board? Where is the black teachers you're going to have to get to run this school? Now, you're going to have to actually go to the Board of Education of public schools and take every black teacher they have. That means you're going to have to pay those teachers double what they're making to get them from the Board of Education, because the Board of Education don't want to pay the teachers as it is. So now you're going to have to get all the black teachers, black counselors, all these people you're going to have to get to run this Marcus Garvey school. And then you're going place by place calling the government, the Board of Education, a bunch of crooks, a bunch of fools and buffoons. And you also worked in the 5th largest school districts. This is what you said. So why haven't you brought forth a lawsuit against the 5th largest school board system to challenge them and what they saying they have done to black boys? You haven't done any of this, but you're taking money from people, talking about you're going to build a school, but a school system where? Where are you going to build this school system? How are you going to fund it? Because if black people are so poor and so out of whack and we so misnomer, as you put it, you have black people that do not have the funding to privately educate their own children because they have to work. So where are you going to get this funding from, Omar? Or you're taking funding now from people, talking about you going across country tour and you gathering money for a school, the Frederick Douglass, Marcus Garvey school, and you don't have blueprints, you don't have a building, you got to get zoning, and then you got to go to the Supreme Court to overturn this law. So you can have total segregation again. Blacks go to black schools, whites go to white school. So now you're going to reverse the clock. Or are you going to try to take the school to, like you say, to the motherland? So that means, that means you're going to have to get a place of where this school is going to be. Now this school has to be big enough where blacks everywhere can join this school. How big is this school going to be? See, those are a lot of questions that you're not answering. You're saying what you're planning to do, that most black leaders, all they do is talk. Well, all you do is steal. Because you're taking money from people from a school for a school that never will exist. Because you're sitting there out of your own mouth talking about what the government ain't about, what the government ain't doing, and you're going to have to get funding from the government, subsidized funding from the government. You're going to have to get zoning. You're going to have to get a building. You got to get inspections, and all that shit comes from the government. Now, how are you going to pull all this shit off, and you're going to have a school big enough where every black American can utilize this school? Every black American has black teachers, male. As you said, it is a crime that young black boys are not taught by black males. This is what you're saying. So that means you're going to have to bring in black teachers. Where are you going to get these teachers from? Who, what, where. There's a lot of motherfucking missing shit in your theories, dude. You're going to take over the entire school system. You're going to build a whole new school system from the ground up. And do you honestly think the Board of Education, public school system, is going to allow you to take all their funding, to strip their system bare? And this is what you're saying. You're saying that you're going to build a new school system completely from the ground up. That means all the existing school systems will be destroyed. Do you honestly believe the Board of Education is going to allow you to do that? I don't think so. Do you think you can have the power to actually overturn Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court and turn the clock back to where we have segregated, no whites go to this school, no other race can go to this school, but only blacks? Are you for real? And then you collected money, as you say, for this school. I don't think you collected money for school. I think you collected money for other things. And as well as, if you look at the history of Marcus Garvey went to jail for the bullshit. And it seems like to me that you are actually trying to live this man's life. You're not living your grandpappy's life, because you just said in your own words that your grandpappy was a traitor. And here these are two different means with two wholly different doctrines. Frederick Douglass believed that America was the home of black Americans. And Marcus Garvey believed that blacks should leave America and go back to Africa. Now you pumping these two guys with two whole different doctrines. So which is it? Which one do you completely follow? Which one do you completely believe in? Oh, but you called your grandpappy a traitor. Because that shit stands for, as you say now. How can you make an excuse for Frederick and then denounce all the brethrens now? You saying that every black man that fucks with a white woman is a traitor. So Frederick Douglass was also a motherfucking traitor. How could you build a school system like Marcus Garvey, and that means, and you haven't even attacked where you at? You said you worked in the school system. You are a psychologist. Every motherfucking thing that you saying, dude, is about you, because you are enemy. You was taught by the white system. You learn every motherfucking thing you learn. As you say, you are this doctor, right? In which I don't believe, but you are this doctor. So every motherfucking thing you learned was from the white man. Your whole educational system, your whole philosophy is about the white man. So now you're telling people you're building a school and you're doing all this, you're going from state to state to state, saying that you're going to build this school, but where are you going to get this funding? Because you're saying black people are so fucked up. So how are you going to fund this school with people that's so fucked up, that don't have the money? Because you have a majority of blacks that are poor, that cannot pay for a private school. Oh, so the school going to be private with exorbitant motherfucking costs? How are you going to pay for all these teachers? How are you going to get the board for this school? How are you going to do all this shit with just these little fucking lectures that you got? Where is the money coming from, Omar? And where is the money that you collecting right now for this school? Where is it going, Omar? Are you going to end up in motherfucking prison, just like Marcus Garvey, for fraud? Because I see you are trying to live this man's life. You have a psychological problem, right? because you're trying to put two different men that had two different ideologies together, and each one did not work together. So I like to know these questions. Where is the money going that you're collecting for this fake school? You need millions and millions and millions of dollars to develop a school. You're saying that you're going to take this system you have and build it from the ground up. So that means you're going to have to put black schools all over America. That means you're going to literally have to destroy the public school system as it stands to do exactly what you're planning. So I like to know, how are you going to do all this? How are you going to build schools for every black American child? Or you planning to leave all the black American children out? Or are you just going to build one little school? Is that going to help the entire black nation? Huh, Omar? These are questions that you're not answering. You say in lectures that a lot of black lecturers run around and they go from place to place running their goddamn mouth, but they don't do any goddamn thing. I think that's you, Omar. You just running your goddamn mouth because you ain't going to be able to accomplish none of that shit. None of it. Because I don't think the school board is going to stand back and let you destroy their motherfucking system. Now, if you were saying that you was even attempting to go in to take over the school board system itself, which would be an impossible task because that means you have to literally go to every state in the union taking over school system boards one at a time or all at one big motherfucking moment. Then, like I said, go to the Supreme Court and overturn that law. Now, this is a monumental task that you would have to do before you can start teaching one black young man. And let's talk about the gang situation right now. I haven't seen you in the hood changing the brothers' minds in the gang situation, stopping the gang wars. Why ain't you doing that, Omar? Why ain't you going from city to city to city speaking to the gang leaders? Why ain't you in Jamaica talking to all the dons? We have been fighting a self-war for over 45 years. I myself have been working to stop the wars in Jamaica. Why ain't you stopping the wars? You have all the answers. You know everything. You wrote your book about you are an expert in every facet. That is what you're saying. You know how to solve all the black people's problems. So why the fuck ain't you solving them? Why are you just running around like you said all over the goddamn country, just running your motherfucking mouth and lying and taking money from black people, and you know damn well you ain't gonna be able to build not one motherfucking school. And then you're making yourself look like a fool. You're saying what the government and everybody is all fucked up. But you're going to need the government to build this school. So, like I said, Omar, how the fuck are you going to subsidize black people that don't have the money? Or are you going to leave them out? Like Bush said, leave no child behind in his motherfucking program. And at the end, we all found out he left all the motherfucking children behind, just like you are.